Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Woo Curious podcast. Your map to the mystical, your key to the sacred, and your guide back home to yourself. I'm Eileen, a writer, a spiritual coach, energy healer, and slow living witch. This podcast is your invitation to explore a world where the mundane and the sacred intertwine. It's a haven for those ready to take the first steps into the realms of magic and mystery, providing a safe space for you to embark on your own enchanted journey towards healing and self-discovery. Here, I'll unveil the whispers of the mystical, the rituals often hidden in plain sight, and I'll engage in sacred conversation intended to stir your soul and lead you back into your power. I'm all about demystifying woo and witchcraft. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or simply woo curious, I'm so delighted you've decided to join me on this journey. Let's make magic. Hello, and welcome back, Woo Crew, for another episode of the Woo Curious podcast. I am joined this week by an amazing guest. Her name is Rachelle Buskas, and she is an RTT therapist, a subconscious coach, and she helps others create empowered and expanded lives using the subconscious mind. And for those of you that don't know, RTT therapy involves hypnotherapy, which is thus that direct connection to the subconscious mind. So welcome, Rachelle. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm looking so forward to our conversation.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So I'd love to start, I do this with all of my guests on this podcast, is just starting a little bit by asking you about the journey that brought you to the work that you're doing now, because on the Woo Curious podcast, we are many people here started off not woo curious or hiding their woo curiosity. And so I'm always so curious to know like the thread that led you into the world of woo and the work that you do.
Okay, so first starting with the thread that led me into the woo. So about 13 years ago, I was engaged to an amazing human being and he passed away very suddenly. He had a brain aneurysm.
Oh,
And that event led me to a massive spiritual awakening after that happened. So as said and as shocking as that was, when you're going through grief and grappling with just the new reality of what has happened to you and your life,
mhm.
you generally want answers. And with the answer that I wanted to know is, so where did he go? Like
Right.
there's no way that this is it and this is just done. Like, where is he? Where is he now? He has to be somewhere. And I grew up quite religious. Like my household wasn't overly religious, but I went to a private Christian school from kindergarten to grade 5. We had church every Sunday. My mother was actually the Sunday school leader in church.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of religion in my life from a young age. So I had learned about heaven. I had learned a lot about hell as well. And so, I mean, I had a general understanding of, oh, when people die, they go to heaven.
Yeah.
And when this happened to me, when he passed away, it was like, yeah, not that's not good enough for me. So I started just consuming a lot of books, and I had myself a past life regression done when I was about 21 years of
Mhm.
age. And it was fascinating. And I really, really connected to all of the past lives that I was regressed to, and was just curious about the spiritual world in general, but not overly curious until this event had happened. So I started reading books about the afterlife, the spirit world,
Mhm.
took me into everything from your guides, guardian angels, the whole purpose of why we're here in the first place, and us just really being spiritual beings having this human experience.
Mhm.
And it gave me so much clarity and it brought me so much peace, even though I was still going through deep grief during this time of my life. So that's how it all sort of started for me. And then I've been a deeply spiritual person ever since that moment.
Yeah, I can imagine. That is, I
Yeah.
just want to say my heart goes out to you as you start that story. That is it's such a I don't know that anything could ever prepare you for that kind of suddenness of losing somebody. much like
Absolutely.
any kind of accident. So yeah, my heart very much goes out to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was 31 when that happened. And, you know, I can look back on it now at 44 years old and say that was one of the worst and one of the best things that could have happened to me was going through that experience for all of the clarity and the expansion of consciousness of
Hmm.
why we're here that it brought me. And just obviously just being able to have that resilience to handle anything that life is going to throw at me after that point. But yeah, it was one of the hardest, but one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
speaking recently on, I can't remember who I was talking to on the podcast, but about that, those traumatic events that really are for so many people, either that spiritual awakening or they shut down and they continue to survive but not really live, right? There's kind of two
Mhm.
responses to those experiences. And so many people do find that they're a turning point that gives them this sense of, oh, like I got to find some meaning and maybe I just have to create that meaning for myself, but this is like the life I get. So how am I going to
Absolutely.
choose to live it moving forwards?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then so cutting to the work that I do now. So I currently own a hair salon and I've owned this salon for 7 years. And obviously, what we went through in the past 4 years, COVID, lockdowns, had to shut down my business multiple times, not ideal. And during all of that time off, I was just searching and seeking for more, like many of us that went through the past 4 years. A lot of us just had major transformative things happen to us. And when we realize there's
Hmm.
certain things in our life that are maybe no longer working for us or just that deeper meaning for more. So I just happened to stumble upon a course that you could take to facilitate past life regressions for other people.
Hmm.
You didn't need any previous experience. You just could take the course and you were licensed as a practitioner called Beyond Quantum Healing is the regression that I use. And as soon as I read this, like I just lit up instantly and I was like, oh, that's so cool that I could give that experience that I had at such a young age of 21 and give that to other people.
Hmm.
And up to that point, I had read a lot of Dolores Cannon's books as well. She's the of past life regression and she's written so many books, fascinating books, just her experiences of the journeys that her clients have gone on and the answers about our experience, human and universal, that has been extracted from these past life regressions. I just thought it was so fascinating. So to
Yeah.
have the opportunity to be this person for other people, I was just like, oh my God, that's so cool. I'm absolutely going to do that. So I'd taken that course first, doing past life regressions. And then very shortly after, I learned about RTT, which is Rapid Transformational Therapy. So the creator of RTT, her name is Marissa Peer, and she is a phenomenal woman that has won multiple awards for this particular brand of therapy that she created using hypnosis. So I had followed Marissa Peer for years. At this point, I'd listened to her in podcasts and watched her masterminds and all of these things, but I had no idea that she created a school a few years ago where she trains people to become rapid transformational therapists as well.
Hmm.
Also, hypnosis modality, working with the subconscious mind. So I thought, what a great way to pair something with my quantum healing work. So past life regression, still helping people discover the root cause of their issues. Maybe people who aren't necessarily spiritually minded and they don't necessarily want to go to a past life, but still helping them in a much bigger way, using the power of the subconscious mind, still
Yeah.
using regression work to regress them back to scenes from this particular lifetime
Yeah.
and getting to the root cause of their anxiety, their depression, their fear of flying, lack of confidence, self-worth, all of that sort of stuff. And it all just came from me wanting to help people on a deeper level after going through the whole experience of business lockdowns and COVIDs and just seeing how deeply people were struggling
Yeah.
through that time of our humanity when the whole world just shut down
Shut down and needed help. Yeah.
and needed so much help, right? So yeah, I've just been drawn to help people on a much deeper level in that way. And I'm just such a firm believer in the work that I do and how quickly and effectively
Hmm.
this helps people on those deeper levels.
Yeah, it is. It's so powerful. Thank you for sharing your journey. I think it's really interesting because I do think there's a lot of people who during that time of COVID did turn to more spiritual types of learning or practices, searching for what the deeper meaning is for being here in this time of like the
Mhm.
whole kind of the surface level busy work, the things that we do to keep ourselves occupied that often keep ourselves out of our own thoughts and minds and bodies were suddenly gone. And so it was like it was a kind of a societal existential crisis, much,
Absolutely.
like a dark night of the soul for the earth, for everybody
Absolutely.
here. And the result, yeah,
Yes.
the result is that so many of us have turned to this healing work, my own journey into energy healing and the more woo side of things happened in the midst of COVID as well as I searched for something else to do to take my mind off how hard my job was so often.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
get to
Yeah.
stop working. I wanted to many
Yeah.
times, but the babies didn't get the memo. So,
Yeah. And that's the
yeah.
thing. Like that's so funny that you say that because that was such a huge part of COVID, right? Like the people that were forced not to work and had
Hmm.
their businesses shut down, like all they wanted to do was work
With work.
to get the money that wasn't coming in. And then the people that were forced to go to work every single day still, they're like, oh, well, I wish I could just, take 2 months off and sit at home.
Yeah.
Be forced to sit at home for 2 months and not work. So it's like, yeah, these two completely different
Totally.
mindsets. Yeah.
Totally. I think I eventually ended up feeling quite grateful that I got to keep working, but man, those first 2 weeks were real hard, real hard.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
that desire to be able to be like, I also want to, get wine drunk and deal with my
Yeah.
woes this way and not have to
Yeah.
go out. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I'd love to chat a little bit about something that you've been really interested in working with clients around this idea of balancing the human experience with the spiritual experience. Because it's something
Hmm.
that, especially if we're talking to healers or people who are in this realm of spirituality and really diving in head first, sometimes we get a little bit lost up in the spiritual realm and forget to come down to earth. And sometimes we're too here on earth, and that's when we're not maybe finding the meaning or the purpose and kind of just slogging it through. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around this and the insights and ahas that kind of led you to starting to dive into this work with people.
Yeah, for sure. So I started noticing it in my clients for sure. And it's an obvious thing for me to notice because the three different methods of helping people that I offer do sort of range from spiritual or, dealing with your soul, your spiritual self, your past lives, or your human three-dimensional life that you're living.
Right.
And depending on what the client is seeking me out for, if they're seeking me out for that past life regression, the spiritual coaching, all of that, I've found that there's quite a few of my clients that are too much in the spiritual. And how I discovered that is they're very powerful manifestors. They're very powerful meditators,
Mm-hmm.
and they spend a lot of time in sort of that energetic manifestation mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking of one client in particular. She has a spiritual business and she knows how gifted she is. She knows how intuitive she is, but she just couldn't make her business work. And what I found was, she's spending so much time in meditation, so much time in manifestation mode that she wasn't focused on the practicalities of marketing yourself
The doing.
as a human, the doing as the human on earth, and getting her finances straightened out by hiring an accountant for her business and making
Mm.
sure her GST is paid on time and dealing with practicalities like taxes. And none of us want to deal with these things in a human realm,
Mhm.
but they do exist at the
Mhm.
same time. And I found a lot of them as well coming to see me for this healing, this spiritual healing. When I spoke to them about the lives that they're living and the way that they're living their lives, a lot of them seemed, like you said, like up here above the head, above the clouds,
Yeah.
and totally disconnected from their human experience. So they spend a lot of time alone. They spend a lot of time in solitude and meditation and contemplation, which are all really great things, but they've cut themselves off completely from community, friendships,
Mm.
spending time with family. And it's showing up in their lives as being more disconnected than connected. They're going into the spiritual realm to be connected to their souls, their higher selves, their higher beings, all of that, but you end up being disconnected from your human life. And the whole point of why we're here is because your soul decided to incarnate on earth.
Mhm.
So your soul decided to come down here to have a human experience. And if you're completely disconnecting from that human experience and everything that comes along with that, all of the challenges and strife and everything that comes along with a human life, your soul is sort of missing the point. Well, maybe your soul isn't missing the point, but you are missing the point of
Yeah.
why your soul chose to come down here in the first place. And you're ignoring that and you're not honoring that when you do that.
Yeah. Almost like spiritual bypassing, really, because it is so often the lived experiences, the tangible, mucky in body stuff that isn't
Mm-hmm.
shiny. It's not pretty. It's not joyful. And so it can be very tempting, especially when you start to get kind of, it's like a drug almost, the spiritual side of things. It's tempting to be like, I'm just, whatever, that's all shit down there. So I'm going to hang out up here. And
Yeah.
it feels almost like a righteous place to be. It's tempting to fall into that space, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I get it. It feels good to be there. And
Yeah.
this whole topic of conversation has also come about because I found myself spending too much time in one realm or the other. So I get it. Like being so connected to the spiritual realm, your guides, your guardian angels, your higher self, all of that. It feels really good to be there because it's
Hmm.
peaceful. And
Hmm.
there's a bigger picture and a broader expansion of consciousness that you get when you're there. But spending too much time there
Yeah.
disconnects you from the human experience that you came down here to live. So that could be a bit troublesome for a lot of people, especially for people that do have more spiritual businesses and things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
see it show up at like the trope of the broke healer is something really common. And
So common. Yeah.
yeah. And I think you mentioned that, I think at some point when we were chatting about this, we have these really gifted healers who can't make any money because they aren't able to, for one, bring themselves down into this lived experience realm. And often they feel badly for charging for their services or charging appropriately for their services
Mm-hmm.
because it is such a calling and something that they feel like the world needs, and therefore they need to give it because they can. Ties into
Mm-hmm.
being female as well. I don't know for certain, and I'm sure there are outliers, but I suspect that male healers have a slightly easier time charging for their services than
I
females.
think so as well. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe not all of them, but yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. I mean, it's just inherently ingrained in the masculine and feminine energies of who we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you top that off with society's pressure on women to be the martyr mother role, right? That caregiver, that putting other
Mhm.
people's needs ahead of your own. And you have a perfect recipe for healers to feel guilty for charging and therefore end up staying broke forever. But
Yes, exactly, exactly.
yeah.
So just to touch on a little bit more to the conversation of staying too much in the spiritual,
Hmm.
we go there because we know we need to be energetically aligned in order to be in that flow state to make our businesses work.
Hmm.
But by not taking care of things that you need to take care of in the material realm and having the confidence to charge what you're worth, having the confidence to charge for a gift that you were born with, a gift
Hmm.
that you were given that may come very naturally to you. So you feel like, oh, this is just, especially healers that are intuitive or do a lot of energy work, they're just born with this blueprint and this energy that is inherently ingrained in them. You know, the whole reason why we go into the spiritual to get energetically aligned and to get in that flow state is to make everything about this human experience easier.
Hmm.
But when we spend too much time there and we're not taking care of things in the human realm that need to be attended to, it actually makes our lives a lot harder and
Yeah.
not easier when we're doing that, when we don't have that balance between the two.
Yeah. I think that thinking about my own experience of this to some extent, especially the piece of like cutting yourself off from friends or family, I've been quite careful to keep a community of other entrepreneurs around me, but they're not like physically around me. And I find when I'm getting busier, when I'm trying to make something happen in business, I like turtle, I hermit. I probably actually
Mm.
don't spend as much time as I should in the spiritual area when this happens because I fall into my very like type A masculine energy of doing. That's my conditioning, especially as a projector. But there is that cutting off, not tending to the body. I definitely do that. And the irony is that it leaves us in this position of almost weakness. There's strength in having that community around you. There's strength in the relationships, in the downtime, in the, you know, much like if you're trying to remember a name or a word for something and you can't, the moment you stop thinking about it, you're going to get that answer. Spiritual dabblings or meditating or whatever that might be, if you're doing it every day, all day, trying to like get those answers and they're not coming, I almost feel like there is that sense of if you spend too much time in any part of your life and not focusing on the others, you're almost setting yourself up to fail in the parts that you're not paying attention to. And we need all the parts, I guess is kind of my
Mhm.
what I'm getting to, right? We can't just live in our heads. We do need to feed the body that is keeping us alive.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and then even just looking on the other side of that, if we're spending too much time in the 3D realm, and because you could have all of the strategies in place, you could have the great high paying job and the good investments and have all of your ducks in a row, but if you're still trying to get somewhere and you're not seeing the bigger picture,
Hmm.
the fact that you are an infinite, powerful soul having a human experience. When we end up in the 3D realm getting sucked into blaming outside influences for the bad things that happen to us
Hmm.
and trying to make things work and make things happen and trying to push things before that divine time is ready for them to
Hmm.
unfold. You're energetically coming from a place of trying to force things rather than staying in your power and letting things unfold naturally as they're meant to.
Hmm.
So when you're not enough in your spiritual and you're more standing firm in the 3D and sucked into this material realm and thinking that this is all that there is, this, oh, I just have one human life and that's when I die and that's it and nothing else happens after that. So therefore we got to go and try.
Hmm.
That's also when things become really challenging. Because like
Yeah.
I said, you could have yourself set up so strategically for all the money and this and this and this, but if you don't have that broader perspective and that spiritual awareness, things will also be challenging and difficult for you because you will never ever find yourself in a state of flow and just allowing things to unfold as they're meant to.
Yeah. Yeah. Too much on either side can leave you in that then victim mentality. This is what I was trying to get to. And I was rambling before was this sense of you, and you said it in the 3D world, this victim mentality. Oh, well, like that's just life. This shit just keeps happening to me without the consciousness that you really do create your reality. Yes, shit does just happen sometimes, but then you get
Mhm.
to choose how to move on from it, right? That's where the creation piece comes in. But the same thing can happen to the people who are living in the spiritual. Well, I'm manifesting so much, like I'm meditating every day. I believe. But if you don't actually act, at least a little bit. Like there
Yeah,
is still action required in the physical realm because that's where we live. And yes, there's quantum leaps and all of these ways that we can try to fast track our progress or our manifestations, but the action is still required. And you can
absolutely.
definitely get into that victim mindset regardless which side you fall on. So it comes back to that finding balance
Absolutely.
between the
Yeah,
two.
a really good metaphor for that is, if you're trying to manifest a beautiful relationship, romantic relationship into your life,
Hmm.
and you go into your meditation and you can, visualize this person and you've written down every quality that they have and you know that this person exists and that they're coming to you, but you never leave your house or you keep going about doing the same things that you've always done
Hmm.
to like in the dating scene or whatever. And like you're not then in your human life 3D realm doing anything to
Yeah.
help that manifestation process along. Like there needs to be that balance that comes into play of like, okay, great. So you've manifested this person, you've meditated on it, you know what's coming to you, but you don't leave your house every single weekend and
Or at least download a dating app.
right? Or put yourself out there in any way, shape, or form. It's like you got to give the universe a little bit of help here. Like the
Yeah.
two, you need to work in tandem with the universe to be an active participant in your life and push that needle forward.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you were mentioning earlier in our conversation too, that idea that hypnosis can really help people transform. I'd love for you to speak a little bit, probably on both sides. Like, how does the work that you do, how does this hypnosis piece come into helping people either step out of their 3D and into spiritual a little more, or vice versa?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll start with the quantum healing that I do. So this is the spiritual work. So my clients will come to see me for a quantum healing session if they are interested in exploring and discovering their past lives. If they
Mhm.
think that some issue that they have in this lifetime is linked to a past life, that's a really great way to do it. These sessions are beautiful and they, because it's more of a spiritual session, they flow and unfold the way that they're meant to. So we go into this session with an intention. The client would set an intention for the session. And the client would then give me 5 to 12 questions that they would like to have answered
Mm.
within this session. How those questions get answered is different from person to person. Sometimes a guide will step forward. Sometimes the higher self will come in. Sometimes it's a spirit animal that decides to join them. But however, the answers to these questions manifest is the way that it's supposed to. So some common questions that clients ask is, what's my life's purpose? What am I down here
Mhm.
to do? Some might be, I have a really stressful, toxic relationship with my sister. What is this relationship supposed to be teaching me? What's the past karma that's attached to my relationship with this particular family member?
Mhm.
When will I find long lasting love in my life? Is this job what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I meant to stay here? Am I meant to move? I feel really drawn to live in a different part of the world. Should I go and live in this part of the world? So the client can generally ask any question that they want
Mhm.
and get the answers that they seek that way. And these sessions are actually really empowering for the client as well, because often we will go see intuitives or
Mhm.
healers and get them to tell us what we want to hear or get them to explain to us why certain things are happening to us or
Give us
just give
the
us those
answers.
answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go to my psychic and she's going to tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
But these sessions are so empowering because it allows the client to see that we have all the answers inside of us.
Oh, I love
We,
this so much.
yeah, we can connect to our higher self. We can connect to our guides anytime that we want. And for a lot of us, we do need to have an immersive hypnotic experience like a quantum healing session to get those answers.
Yeah.
But instead of outsourcing these answers to another power, we can just go in and get them ourselves. And that's a really, really beautiful way to connect in
Hmm.
to your higher self, to your soul, to all of the lives that you've lived up into this point and all of the experiences that you've had. Tap into the gifts that you've brought with you into this life that you created in other lives. Like they're just beautiful, beautiful sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds a lot like or very similar to the soul council sessions that I offer where we drop in it's not hypnosis because I haven't been trained in hypnosis, but it's something deeper than just your average visualization. And we call forward council members, 3 council members, to answer questions.
Oh,
And that's,
amazing.
yeah, a similar kind of experience, but with its own take. I love how many different modalities are out there, but I especially love the ones that, like what you do, give the clients the tools and that confidence that, oh, I don't need to go seeking externally for validation, for answers, for empowerment. It's all like right within me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your soul is a powerful, powerful thing
Yeah.
that holds an eternity of information and answers about your blueprint and everything that makes up you in the universe. And you can access it anytime that you want.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I know you say that you do these with people who are already kind of more spiritually curious. The neat thing that I've noticed with the soul council sessions, and I'm sure it would be the same, is that I've had people come in who are like, I don't know, this might be totally bullshit. I'm like, that's cool. You can think it's
Yeah.
bullshit. I'm just going to ask you to suspend disbelief. And at the very least, we're tapping into your subconscious. Like, if you don't
Mhm.
believe that you're calling guides to you to get answers,
Mhm.
at the very least, we have enough science to be like, it's a way to tap into that wisdom that
Mhm.
lives in that subconscious mind. Now, you and I know that the subconscious mind is like our portal or our access point to all these other guides and these past lives and stuff. But you don't have to believe that for this kind of work to work, which is so cool.
Exactly. It's funny that you say that because when my clients come out of these sessions, they immediately kind of start to second guess if it was real.
Yeah.
I asked them how they felt. They're like, I don't know, like I feel like I kind of made it up in my head. And so the way that I get the answers from these clients is when I'm nudging them along and asking them to tell me what they're experiencing. I just say the first thing that pops into your mind, even if it doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
Even if I ask you what your name is and you're like, that's not a name, just tell me the name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the first thing that pops into your head, because we don't want your conscious mind engaged in
Hmm.
these sessions. It's all coming from the subconscious. So they come out of the sessions and they second guess it. And they're like, I don't know, I feel like I just made it up and that like maybe it wasn't real. So what I ask them is like, okay, so this is your conscious mind coming in and trying to tell you that what you experienced, the logic is trying to set in, right? But
Yeah.
I'm like, how did you feel in the session though? How did you feel when we looked at this life? How did you feel when you saw your child die in this
Mm-hmm.
life in 1792, right? And in these sessions, clients are getting emotional and they're crying or they're laughing and they're like, oh, I felt this. And I'm like, so that you can't explain away. You can't explain away how you felt in that moment, picturing or experiencing this previous life, or picturing and experiencing that interaction that you had with a guide that
Hmm.
stepped forward for you, how that guide felt when you were standing next to them,
Hmm.
how you felt when you were looking in their eyes. Like you can't explain that away. Like that's real. If you didn't
Yeah.
feel anything, then we might have a different conversation and be like, okay, well, maybe you made it up, but everybody feels something. And your subconscious mind is your feeling mind
Yeah.
as well. It's our
Yeah.
emotional mind.
Yeah.
So try explaining that away. So that usually gives them a lot of peace and validation that the session that they had was real and legitimate.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I love offering that to people. It's true. I don't think I've done more than one or two sessions where the client hasn't ended up in tears at some point because of
Yes.
the guide that comes through or because of the message that they receive. And yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah,
magical space to be able to walk with people.
absolutely. Absolutely. So with RTT, if you'd like to learn more about that. So
Yeah.
RTT stands for, I'm not sure if I said this before, but it stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy. So clients seek this particular modality for very specific issues. So, like I said, if you've got anxiety, depression, you want to lose weight, you have a lack of
Hmm.
self-confidence, you have a fear of flying, pretty much anything,
You want to
any
quit
issue,
smoking. Yeah. Yeah.
everything can be done using rapid transformational therapy. So in this particular modality, we regress back to scenes in this lifetime. So there's a root cause to every issue that you have. There's a root cause to every limiting belief
Mm-hmm.
that you have in your mind. And it all stems from one event in your childhood where your mind from a very, very young age adopted a feeling or a belief to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, your subconscious mind will then look for reasons to validate that initial belief to
Mm-hmm.
make it true. So we regress back to scenes in this lifetime where clients also get an understanding of the root cause, where this issue came from, where this started in the first place. And then we do some work within the session to unravel that and just allow the client to see how powerful their mind is, number one,
Yeah.
to adopt these beliefs to be true, to then start running a program and an operating system in how you're showing up in your life today and all of the ways that the subconscious mind sabotages you. And it only does this because the subconscious mind is also your primal mind.
Mm-hmm.
So we are still wired primally to the deepest part of our core.
Yeah.
So your mind's
Just trying to
number
keep
one,
us safe, right? It's
exactly.
always
Your
just
mind's
wants to keep
number
us
one
safe.
job is to protect you and to keep you safe, but it does it in really counterintuitive ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a society, we've never been safer.
Mm-hmm.
We've got shelter, we have food available to us at all times. What we've evolved into, we are the safest we've ever been, but your mind
Mm-hmm.
is still wired primally to constantly be alerting you to danger. We go into survival mode, all of these things.
Yeah.
So in regressing back to scenes from this particular lifetime where this feeling and this belief was adopted in this moment, the client then realizes how their mind works, realizes where this belief, this behavior, this symptom came from in the first place. And then we work to then rewire the
Mm-hmm.
subconscious mind into running a new program and adopting a new belief system. And we
Yeah.
do this at the end of the session. I make a recording for my clients in which I ask them before we do the regression. I ask them, what does your life look like without this problem?
Right.
What does your ideal life look like? And I get them to be as detailed and descriptive with me as possible. And I put all of that into their recording.
Yeah.
So it's so powerful because it's their words, it's their language, it's exactly what they want for their lives. It's how they want to look, it's how they want to feel, it's how they want their day to day to go, it's how they want to start showing up in the world. And they commit to going home and listening to this recording for 21 days straight. And in those 21 days, we are essentially rewiring and reprogramming their subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes.
I
Yeah.
love it. It's cool. I've had an RTT session. One time it was part of a mastermind program that I'm in. It was like a gift as part of being part of this group. And
Amazing.
I still pull out my recording to listen to if I'm having troubles falling asleep or if I'm finding myself into like falling back into old habit spirals and patterns. But it was a really
Yeah.
interesting experience of being dropped into hypnosis.
Hmm.
And one of the places that I regressed back to, I think I was too little to like have really clear images and thoughts. The other two spots that I went to, she was like, you'll see it clearly, you'll feel like you're there, etc. But this one place, I was like, I don't know. I felt really, really dizzy, like so
Mm.
dizzy all of a sudden, and just this sense of being little and I could hear voices, but I was alone. Like I think I was in my grandparents' house back in Ontario. We moved there when I was almost 1 and
Hmm.
left Ontario again when I was almost 4. So I know I was really little. But it's very interesting to kind of have this like, what did that piece mean?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and that's what we do in this particular work. Even if the client can't particularly see a scene,
Hmm.
but they understand that they're little, maybe they don't fully understand how old they are in that scene. But
Hmm.
what's important is how they're feeling
Yeah.
in that scene. Well, how are you feeling? And why are
Yeah.
you feeling that way? I've even had clients regress back to being in the womb. I've had quite a few clients regress back to being in their mother's womb, and they're
Yeah.
picking up energy from their mother.
Yeah.
They're getting that sensory information so they know that a really common thing when they go back to the womb is they can sense that their mother is stressed out.
Hmm.
They can sense that they were an unwanted pregnancy.
Mm.
They can sense that they're not wanted. So it even, low self-esteem and low self-worth, the I'm not enoughness stems back from being in the womb and just knowing that the
Mm-hmm.
family is stressed out financially because they are now coming into the world and they feel like they're not wanted from before they even enter this realm. And it's fascinating that our
Wild.
minds can
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's very interesting what comes up. I would love to do another, like at some point. I know I will be reaching out to you to
Yeah.
ask for a session because there's certain things that triggered that I was like, oh, I want to go deeper on that. There's one word in my recording that, there's a lot of you are enough, you are worthy just as you are, etc. And those all feel really good when I listen. But every time this woman's voice says you belong, I cry to this day.
Mm,
That's like, whoo, okay, there's more there.
yeah.
We gotta
Beautiful.
we got to dig into that one.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
that's the thing. When you understand that we operate from the subconscious mind 95% of the time, most people
Mhm.
don't know that. I mean, you and I, even right now, we're having a conscious conversation. Our eyes are open, we're interacting, but how we're even showing up to this conversation is all subconscious.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to ruffle any feathers with any of your listeners, but my deep belief is the reason why traditional therapy no longer works, or it takes so long for somebody to get answers and actually get true healing, is because you
Mhm.
can't have a conscious conversation about a subconscious problem
Yeah.
that they don't even know that they have, right? So that's why hypnosis is so effective. It's like, great, you've got this issue. We chat a little bit before the session, but it's like, no, let's just go right back into scenes because your mind knows
Mhm.
why you have this issue. And us consciously talking about it, consciously trying to solve this problem is going to get us nowhere, or it's going to take us years
Yeah,
to
I think
peel back that onion and get there.
yeah, I think I agree with you. I feel like what traditional talk therapy is really good at is giving people tools to cope with the day-to-day as they're healing. That's
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
piece that's still strong, but I know even a lot of therapists are starting to turn to different modalities. I have a client
Mhm.
who's in my 6 month program where we drop in. The energy healing functions a lot like the hypnosis in my belief or my opinion, in that we tap into like what's below the surface. We talk a little, but we do a lot of not talking.
Yeah.
But I have a client who sees me and sees a therapist who she loves, but her therapist is dropping her into like, let's go meet the different parts of yourself. Let's go, we're going to drop you into visualization and go meet an ancestor and stuff. So clearly not traditional talk therapy.
Yeah.
And it's so much more powerful because of it, bringing in all of these
Yeah.
these pieces and these more. I love that woo is now pretty much just mainstream. It's,
Totally. Well,
yeah.
and what I would offer to that is, do you want to cope or do you want to heal?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to cope. You don't need all these tools to, try to keep your nervous system intact as you go about your day to day. You don't have to try to consciously,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to pull up this tool right now because I'm feeling super anxious or I'm feeling deeply insecure or whatever. It's like, no, let's not cope anymore. Let's heal
Let's get,
on a
yeah,
deeper level.
get
Yeah.
past the coping. Yes, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for coming and talking to me about all of this today. I love listening to people speak about what they're so passionate about and
Mhm.
so obviously like knowledgeable and talented at. What are you offering? I know you kind of touched on the different offers you have, these RTT sessions and then the quantum healing sessions. Are these the two primary ways that people like jump into working with you? Do you have like a package offer that you're running or anything that you want to share with the listeners?
Yes, absolutely. So these are the two hypnosis modalities that I offer, but I'm also a subconscious coach.
Right.
And I believe so deeply in coaching, primarily because when you're dealing with therapy, therapy deals with the past.
Hmm.
And I decided to become a coach because in doing the RTT work with my clients, because RTT is so powerful and so effective, I had clients after their sessions coming back to me feeling amazing and just being like, oh my God, I always thought I was going to have that issue. I
Hmm.
always thought I was going to be living with this problem. And they're like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
have no idea how to move forward with their life because they always thought that they were going to be dealing with depression or anxiety or just all of these things, battling with low self-worth. And now that they feel like they could just kick the shit out of the world, they're like, I don't know what to do or how to move forward. So that's where coaching comes in.
Hmm.
And the reason why I love blending these two together is because you can deal with the past, the present, and the future all in a journey with me. So I offer a 30-day experience that gives you 1 RTT session and 3 coaching sessions. There's a 6-week transformative experience that gives you 2 hypnosis sessions. So the client can either choose to have maybe 2 RTT sessions, or maybe they might do 1 RTT and 1 quantum healing session. That's actually quite common because people are really curious to explore both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's coaching sessions that happens in between there. So it's a really effective way for you to make a solid plan for your life and quickly move forward, healing and getting past all of the blocks and the limiting beliefs that are holding you back from really experiencing and living in your true potential and moving your life forward in this way. And then just having the coaching with that, having that person there with you to make that solid plan and move your life forward. So those are the ways that clients can work with me. There's a whole bunch of different ways. We can just do RTT, we can just do quantum healing. And then there's packages that I put together as well that sort of give you everything with the coaching experience, blending the spiritual and the material together.
The whole shebang.
The whole shebang. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are over on your website, limitlessu.ca, which will be linked in the show notes for listeners. You can also find Rachelle over on Instagram, Rapid Transformation Rachelle. Again, will be linked in the show notes below. Thank you so much again for being here with me today, for chatting about hypnotherapy and this quantum healing. I feel like our work is so aligned in so many ways. It's always such a pleasure to speak to another healer in this sphere. We need more of us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love having conversations that matter and just love talking about all of this stuff. So this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And thanks, Woo Crew, to all of you for tuning into this week's episode. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to come find me over on Instagram at myluminouslife_ and reach out. And of course, wherever you're listening to this, if you like today's episode, leave us a 5-star review and we will see you back here next week. I had no idea when I recorded this episode with Rachelle how beautifully the topics we covered would align with the energies of the seasons currently. Right now, I am running a discount on soul council sessions. You heard me talk about these briefly with Rachelle. We talked about empowering our clients to find the healing and the answers within themselves, meeting guides. These soul council sessions are such a cool way to tap into the answers that exist within you and to form a deeper connection with your guides for this incarnation here on Earth. If it's something that you're curious about, I've dropped the link in the show notes and the code to get 10% off of Soul Council sessions until May 15th is Beltane, Beltane, and it's in honor of the Wheel of the Year celebration that happened on May 1st, and also to acknowledge the fact that at this particular Wheel of the Year celebration, the veil is thin, much like at Samhain, and so I thought it would be a wonderful time to drop a little discount. So once again, Soul Council sessions, if you buy before May 15th, doesn't matter when you book the session, but if you buy before May 15th, that code Beltane will get you 10% off at checkout. Okay, much love to you all. Talk to you next week.